My teenage son added something to my coffee every morning. I found his text to my ex-wife. 2 more weeks of the medicine and he'll be declared mentally incompetent. She replied, "Perfect. Keep it up." I replaced the coffee with a special blend of my own. Today, they're both in custody. Sorry to bother everyone with this, but I guess I need to write this down somewhere. I'm still trying to process everything that's happened over the last few months. I probably don't know what I'm talking about half the time anyway, but here goes nothing. I've been divorced from my ex-wife Beatrice for about 18 months now. We were married for 15 years, and I guess maybe I should have seen the signs earlier. She always had a way of making me feel small. Nothing I did was ever good enough. The house wasn't clean enough. I didn't make enough money. I was too anxious in social situations. I embarrassed her in front of her friends. Just a constant stream of little cuts that added up over time. When she left me for Raoul, who, by the way, dumped her 3 months later, I wasn't even surprised, just sort of relieved. But then came the divorce settlement. I'm not great at standing up for myself, understatement of the century, so I ended up agreeing to this ridiculous alimony payment that leaves me barely able to afford my tiny one-bedroom apartment. I work overtime most weeks just to keep up with the payments and still have enough for food. The only good thing in my life has been my son, Declan. He's 16 now, smart kid. Way smarter than me, that's for sure. After the divorce, we worked out this custody arrangement where he stays with me every other weekend and one day during the week. I always try to make those days special, order his favorite foods, let him pick the movies, that kind of thing. I guess maybe I've been trying too hard to make him like me. He usually just sits on his phone most of the time anyway. About 3 months ago, I started noticing some strange things happening to me. Little things at first. I'd walk into a room and forget why I went in there. I'd lose track of conversations at work. Just normal forgetfulness, I thought. Probably just stress from the divorce and money problems, you know? But then it got worse. I started missing meetings at work because I'd completely forget about them. I'd find myself staring at my computer screen, unable to remember what I was supposed to be doing. My boss, Mary, called me in twice to talk about my performance. The second time, she told me I was on thin ice. One more major mistake, and I'd be let go. The thought of losing my job terrified me. I could barely make ends meet as it was. I went to the doctor, worried something was seriously wrong. He ran some tests, but everything came back normal. Just anxiety and depression, he said. Increased my medication dosage. I wasn't convinced, but what did I know? I'm not a medical expert, just a failure who can't even keep his thoughts straight. I started keeping notes on my phone to track when these episodes were happening. After a few weeks, I noticed a pattern. The confusion and memory problems were always worse after Declan stayed over. At first, I thought maybe the stress of trying to be a good dad was causing it somehow, but the correlation was too strong to ignore. Then came the day that changed everything. I came home early from work with a migraine so bad I could barely see straight. I'd been having more and more of those lately, too. I was moving quietly, not wanting to disturb Declan, who had come over after school to work on a project. At least that's what he said. As I approached the kitchen, I saw him standing by the coffee maker, the one I set up every night so it would brew automatically in the morning. He had his back to me and was adding something to the coffee grounds from a small container. When he heard me, he jumped and quickly shoved the container in his pocket. He made up some excuse about adding cinnamon because he knew I liked it. I pretended to believe him. Conflict avoidance is my specialty, after all. But later, when he was in the shower, I checked the coffee maker. There was no cinnamon smell, just the grounds with some kind of powder mixed in. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept going back to the coffee. Had Declan been adding something to my coffee? And if so, for how long? Could that explain the symptoms I'd been experiencing? The next day, while Declan was at school, I searched his room. I know, invasion of privacy and all that. But I was scared. In the back of his closet, I found something unexpected. A small camera, the kind used for home security. It was pointed directly at my living room. Why would my son be spying on me? It took me a while to figure out how to access the footage. I'm not great with technology despite working IT, but when I did, my stomach dropped. There was Declan, morning after morning, adding something to my coffee, my oatmeal. even sprinkling it on the sandwiches I would take to work. The timestamps went back over 2 months. I felt sick, literally sick. I ran to the bathroom and threw up. My own son was drugging me. My own son, the person I loved more than anyone in the world. But why? What could possibly be his motivation? The answer came 3 days later. Declan had left his phone on the counter while he showered. I'd never checked his phone before. I trusted him, and honestly, I was always afraid of confrontation if he caught me. But now, I had to know. There were hundreds of texts between him and Beatrice. I couldn't read them all in the time I had, but what I did see made my world collapse. Beatrice, has he shown any more symptoms? Declan, yeah? He forgot to pick me up yesterday and just stared at the wall for like 10 minutes this morning. Beatrice, perfect. Keep giving him the pills. 2 more weeks of the medicine, and he'll be declared mentally incompetent. Declan, what happens then? Beatrice, I'll get conservatorship, access to his finances, and control of any medical decisions. He just got approved for that early retirement package. The payout is huge. Declan, and I get the car we talked about? Beatrice, and your full college fund, just like we agreed. My own son and ex-wife were systematically drugging me to have me declared incompetent so they could steal my retirement package, the package I didn't even know had been approved yet, the only substantial money I would ever have. I put the phone back exactly where it was and went to sit in my car. I cried for an hour. Then I considered driving into a bridge abutment and ending it all. What was the point of living if the only 2 people I cared about in the world wanted to destroy me? But as I sat there, something strange happened. The sadness began to harden into something else, something I hadn't felt in years, maybe decades. Anger, real burning anger. I dried my eyes and went back inside. I made Declan his favorite dinner. I smiled and asked about school. I drank the coffee he had prepared for me the next morning, then poured the rest down the sink when he wasn't looking. I went to work and started researching. By the end of the week, I had identified the pills through a pharmaceutical database. They were a combination of powerful antipsychotics and medication, normally used for dementia patients. No wonder I'd been experiencing such severe symptoms. I also discovered my coworker Nancy had previously worked in pharmaceuticals. I took a chance and confided in her, showing her pictures I'd taken of the pills. Her face, when she identified them, told me everything I needed to know about how dangerous this situation was. She helped me understand what they were doing to my brain, and more importantly, how to counteract the effects while appearing to still be under their influence. The company retirement package was substantial, enough to finally give me financial security. Beatrice must have found out about it somehow. In her texts, she mentioned a competency hearing already scheduled for 3 weeks away. They had been planning this for months. For the first time in my life, I didn't back down. I didn't curl up in fear. I didn't just accept what was happening to me. I looked in the mirror last night, really looked, and I didn't recognize the person staring back. Not because of the drugs, but because for the first time in as long as I can remember, I saw someone with purpose. Someone who wasn't going to be a victim anymore. I've started creating my own special blend to replace what they've been giving me. Nancy is helping me gather evidence properly. I'm documenting everything, and I'm planning something that will make them regret ever thinking they could take advantage of me again. They wanted to destroy my mind. Instead, they've awakened something in me I didn't know existed, and now they're going to pay for it. All of it. More updates to come as this unfolds. I don't know if anyone will believe this or care, but I needed to put it somewhere. For once in my life, I'm not going to just roll over and take it. For once, I'm fighting back. Update. Hey everyone. It's me again. Thank you so much for all the supportive comments on my last post. I honestly didn't expect anyone to even read it, let alone care about what's happening to me. I guess maybe I'm just not used to people being on my side. It's been about 10 days since I discovered that my son Declan and ex-wife Beatrice have been systematically drugging me to have me declared mentally incompetent. I've been documenting everything, and, well, things have gotten even more twisted than I initially thought. Nancy, my coworker with the pharmaceutical background, has been incredible through all this. She helped me identify exactly what they've been giving me. a combination of high-dose antipsychotics and dementia medication that would make anyone appear to be losing their mind. The side effects explain everything I've been experiencing: the confusion, memory loss, tremors, and those horrible moments where I'd just zone out completely. The really scary part? According to Nancy, the dosage they've been using could cause permanent brain damage if continued long-term. My own son and the mother of my child were willing to potentially cause irreversible harm to my brain just for money. Just typing that makes my hands shake. Not from the drugs this time, but from something else entirely. I've been pretending to still drink the coffee and eat the food Declan prepares. In reality, I've been dumping most of it down the sink or hiding it in napkins when he's not looking. Nancy helped me get some activated charcoal to take when I can't avoid consuming small amounts. I still have to show some symptoms or they'll get suspicious, but I'm carefully controlling which ones I display. 3 days after my last post, I decided to dig deeper. While Declan was at school, I thoroughly searched his room again. Behind his dresser, I found a notebook filled with observations about my behavior, daily entries documenting my symptoms, some real, some completely fabricated. According to this notebook, I've had aggressive outbursts and paranoid episodes that never actually happened. He's been building a false record for weeks. The most chilling entry was from last month. Mom says to start documenting aggressive behavior. Said it will help with the case. Made up story about dad threatening neighbor. I've never threatened anyone in my life. I'm the guy who apologizes when someone else bumps into me. I also found a small digital recorder in his backpack. Listening to it nearly broke me. It was Beatrice coaching Declan on exactly what to say to the evaluator at my upcoming competency hearing. They rehearsed scenarios, practiced his concerned voice, worked on making me sound dangerous and completely detached from reality. My own son, my own flesh and blood. I took pictures of everything, made copies of the recordings, documented it all. Then I put everything back exactly where I found it. I couldn't risk them knowing I was onto them. The next discovery came purely by accident. I was setting up email forwarding for a work project when I noticed something strange. An email address similar to mine was in the system. It was off by just one character, john0428@email.com, instead of john0428@email.com. Not my real email, obviously. Curious, I tried logging in using my regular password. It worked. Someone, almost certainly Beatrice, had created a nearly identical email account to mine, and because of the similarity, she was accidentally included on some of my work correspondence, including the notification about my early retirement package that I never actually received. The package is significant, much more than I realized. My company is downsizing and offering long-term employees a generous payout. In my case, it amounts to nearly $350,000 plus extended health benefit. It's the most money I would ever see in my life. Through this email account, I discovered Beatrice had already been in contact with a lawyer about establishing an emergency conservatorship. The hearing is scheduled for exactly 14 days from now. They've been gathering evidence of my mental decline for months, building a case to take control of my finance, my medical decisions, everything. I also found emails revealing why Beatrice is so desperate for money. After Raoul left her, she racked up massive credit card debt, trying to maintain her lifestyle. She's facing bankruptcy, possible eviction, and has a lien against her car. She's drowning, and I'm her life raft. Or rather, my retirement package is. With Nancy's help, I began implementing my counterplan. First, I needed to document my actual mental state. I secretly met with an independent doctor Julie recommended, who evaluated me and officially documented that I'm completely competent when not under the influence of unprescribed medication. I also had comprehensive blood tests that detected traces of the drugs they've been giving me. Next, I started creating my special blend. Nancy helped me find supplements that would make my symptoms appear to worsen dramatically while actually keeping my mind clear. I added tasteless, harmless chemicals that would show up on toxicology screening, proof that I was being drugged against my knowledge. I replaced what they thought was their medication with my own concoction. I began acting more confused, more detached. I started forgetting basic tasks, appearing disoriented at work. I called Beatrice multiple times, claiming not to remember our divorce. I texted Declan nonsensical messages in the middle of the night, all carefully calculated to make them believe their plan was working even better than expected. Throughout all this, the hardest part has been pretending with Declan, sitting across from him at dinner, knowing he's watching for signs that the drugs are working, fighting the urge to ask him why. Why would he do this to me? What did I ever do except love him? There are moments when I look at him and still see my little boy, the one who used to run to me with skinned knees and bad dreams, looking for comfort. Now he sits there calmly watching me deteriorate, all for a car and college fund. Last weekend was the breaking point. Declan stayed over as usual, and I pretended to be having more serious episodes. I forgot how to use the microwave. I put my keys in the refrigerator where he would find them. I called him by the wrong name several times. His reaction was chilling. Instead of concern, I caught a small smile when he thought I wasn't looking. He immediately texted someone, Beatrice, I assumed. Later, when he was in the bathroom, I checked the hidden camera I'd installed in the living room. He was on the phone, laughing about how I couldn't even remember his name anymore. Laughing at my apparent cognitive collapse. That night, I set up the final piece of my plan. I created a comprehensive file documenting everything. The hidden camera footage of Declan drugging me, the text messages, the emails about the conservatorship, the medical reports, everything. I sent copies to Nancy, Julie, and a secure cloud account only I can access. I also contacted Beatrice's deeply religious parents, with whom she's always had a strained relationship. I didn't tell them everything, just that I was concerned about some decisions Beatrice was making that might affect Declan negatively, and that I might need their perspective soon, just planting the seed for what's to come. Julie helped me prepare legally. We documented all my assets and financial information. We drafted counter motions to immediately be filed if Beatrice attempts to establish conservatorship. We prepared evidence of the drugging in a format admissible in court. Yesterday, things accelerated faster than I expected. Beatrice texted me about a checkup with a doctor she's concerned about me seeing. It's scheduled for tomorrow, not the official competency hearing, but clearly a preliminary evaluation to build their case. According to her, Declan will come with me for support. Little do they know, I've already spoken with this doctor. Mary is actually an old college classmate of Julie's, and while she can't compromise her medical ethics, she's fully aware that there are concerns about me being drugged against my will. She's agreed to run a complete toxicology screening as part of my evaluation. Tonight, I made a final adjustment to my special blend. I added the last tracers that will show up clearly in any comprehensive blood test. Tomorrow, I'll appear completely non-functional, barely able to communicate, showing symptoms far more severe than they anticipated. I'll give them exactly what they want. A man who appears to have completely lost his mental capacity, and then the real evaluation will begin. I've spent my entire life avoiding conflict. I've let people walk all over me, take advantage of my kindness, treat me like a doormat. I've apologized for existing, minimized my own needs, and accepted crumbs of affection from the people who should have loved me most. Not anymore. When I look in the mirror now, I still see the same timid face, the same anxious eyes. But behind them is something new, something cold, something capable of watching Beatrice and Declan lose everything just as they planned for me to lose everything. Tomorrow, they think they're taking the final step in destroying me. They have no idea what's coming. Update 2. It's over. First, thank you to everyone who's been following my story and offering support. I never imagined so many people would care about what happened to someone like me. Your comments helped me stay strong through what I'm about to describe. The evaluation appointment was yesterday. I woke up early and took a triple dose of my special blend, making sure the traceable markers Nancy helped me prepare would be clearly detectable in my system. Then I made sure to appear completely non-functional when Beatrice and Declan arrived to pick me up. I've never been good at confrontation, but I discovered I'm surprisingly talented at pretending to be drugged out of my mind. I stumbled around my apartment, slurring my words, staring vacantly at the wall. The looks Beatrice and Declan exchanged were illuminating, not concern, satisfaction. On the drive to the clinic, I heard them whispering in the front seat, thinking I was too far gone to understand. Beatrice was already counting the money, planning how to access my retirement funds the moment she got conservatorship. Declan was asking about the car she'd promised him, a BMW, apparently. The casual way they discussed dismantling my life while I sat right behind them, I'll never forget it. At the clinic, I shuffled in between them, barely able to stand on my own. Dr. Mary greeted us, her expression professionally neutral, as Beatrice explained how drastically my condition had deteriorated. Declan shared fabricated stories about my episodes, violent outbursts that never happened, paranoid accusations I never made. The performance was almost impressive in its calculated cruelty. Dr. Mary suggested a comprehensive evaluation, including blood work. Beatrice hesitated. They hadn't expected this, but refusing would have seemed suspicious. While providing my samples, I made brief eye contact with Mary. She gave an almost imperceptible nod. The examination continued with cognitive tests that I deliberately failed in spectacular fashion. Simple counting exercises, basic memory questions. I fumbled through them all, while Beatrice nodded sadly, and Declan documented everything on his phone. Dr. Mary suggested Beatrice and Declan step out, while she completed the physical portion of the exam. The moment the door closed, everything changed. I sat up straight. My speech cleared. I handed Mary the final piece of evidence, a complete dossier of everything they'd done, including the surveillance footage of Declan drugging me. She reviewed it quickly, her expression darkening. Then she made a call. When Beatrice and Declan returned 30 minutes later, Dr. Mary asked them to sit down for the results of my evaluation. The moment they were seated, the door opened behind them. 2 officers entered along with Julie, my lawyer, and Nancy. What happened next plays in my mind like a scene from a movie I never thought I'd star in. Dr. Mary revealed the blood test results, showing both the substances they'd been giving me for months and the tracers I'd added to my special blend. She explained that my cognitive functions were completely normal when not under the influence of unprescribed medication. The look on Beatrice's face, I wish I could describe it adequately. Shock doesn't cover it. Horror comes closer. The moment she realized her perfect plan had collapsed, that I had been aware the entire time, that I had been gathering evidence against her. Her face seemed to age 10 years, in 10 seconds. Declan's reaction was different. He started crying immediately, pointing at Beatrice, claiming she made him do it. The officers informed them both that they were being taken into custody for investigation of elder abuse, attempted fraud, and several other charges I hadn't even considered. As they were being led out, Beatrice looked back at me with a mixture of hatred and disbelief. I didn't look away. For the first time in our relationship, I held her gaze without flinching, without apologizing. I wanted her to see exactly who was responsible for her downfall. That was yesterday. Since then, things have moved with surprising speed. Julie had prepared everything in advance. The evidence was overwhelming and immediately actionable. Beatrice has been formally charged with multiple felonies. Her bail was set high enough that she couldn't possibly afford it given her financial situation. She's currently in county jail awaiting trial. According to Julie, the prosecution is pushing for the maximum sentence, potentially 15 years, given the premeditated nature of the crime and the particular vulnerability statutes in our state. Declan, being a minor, is in juvenile detention. His situation is complicated by his age, but the evidence of his willing participation is irrefutable. The psychological evaluation ordered by the court revealed something unexpected. Beatrice has been emotionally manipulating and abusing him for years. This doesn't excuse what he did, but it adds context. He'll likely be in secure treatment for at least 2 years, followed by strict probation. But my revenge didn't stop at criminal charges. That would have been too merciful for what they plan to do to me. The emergency protective order Julie filed means Beatrice has permanently lost all parental rights. Even after Declan is released, she won't be allowed contact with him. The evidence package we submitted to the family court ensured that. Julie also helped me file a civil suit for damages. The preliminary injunction has frozen all of Beatrice's remaining assets pending the outcome of the case. Her car has been repossessed. The apartment she was already struggling to afford has evicted her. When she eventually gets out of jail, years from now, she'll have nothing. I contacted her employer with documentation of her crimes. She was terminated immediately. Due to the nature of the charges, she'll be effectively unemployable in her field even after serving her sentence. Remember those religious parents I mentioned contacting earlier? I sent them the complete evidence file once Beatrice was in custody. According to mutual friends, they've publicly disowned her. The church community that was her main social support has completely cut her off. Nancy helped me compile a detailed account of the medication they were giving me, including the potential long-term health effects. This has been added to the civil case, substantially increasing the damages Beatrice will eventually be ordered to pay. Money she doesn't have and never will. I even purchased Beatrice's car at the repossession auction yesterday. I'm having it donated to a local shelter for victims of domestic abuse. A small gesture, but one that felt right. As for Declan, that's harder. He's still my son, despite everything. The psychological evaluation showed the extent of Beatrice's influence over him. She convinced him I didn't really love him, that I was planning to cut him off financially, that helping her was the only way to secure his future. But he made his choices. He watched me deteriorate day by day and felt nothing but satisfaction. The juvenile system will hold him accountable, and I've made sure he'll receive the psychological help he needs. But I won't be there when he gets out. Some bridges can't be rebuilt. My retirement package has been secured. I've moved to a new apartment in a different part of town where nobody knows me as the pushover, the doormat, the guy who apologizes when someone else bumps into him. I've started therapy with a counselor Julie recommended, someone who specializes in recovery from psychological abuse. The strangest part of all this, I feel like I can breathe for the first time in decades, not because of the money or the justice, but because I finally stood up for myself. I finally said enough. Last night I made myself a cup of coffee. Real coffee, not the special blend. I sat by my window watching the sunset, and I realized something profound. The man Beatrice and Declan tried to destroy doesn't exist anymore. Neither does the man who would have forgiven them, who would have made excuses for their behavior, who would have blamed himself. I don't know exactly who I am now, but I know who I'm not. I'm not a victim, I'm not a pushover, and I'm certainly not sorry. For those wondering if my revenge was too harsh, they planned to drug me into permanent mental disability, steal everything I had, and discard me like garbage, all while pretending to care about me. There's no punishment too severe for that kind of betrayal. Today, as I signed the final paperwork for my retirement package, the money they'll never touch, I felt nothing but a cold satisfaction. Sometimes justice isn't warm or healing. Sometimes it's just the necessary ending to a story that should never have been written. I don't know what happens next. I've never had a future that was truly my own before. But for the first time in my life, I'm not afraid to find out.